everybody is. So, John,
Sure.
you want to start?
I'm John Monson. I'm with DBA Parking and Transportation, and I also serve on the MPO Technical Committee.
Chip Boyles, Director of both the Planning District Commission and the MPO.
Ann Malik, Whitehall District, Albemarle County.
Kristen Sakis, City Council.
Diantha McKeel, Albemarle County, Jack Jewett District.
Kathy Galvin, City Council, Charlottesville.
And John Lynch, VDOT, Culpeper District.
Katie Dickensheets, here in Angeles Place from VDOT.
And I'm Chuck Proctor. I work in the planning office at Culpeper District with VDOT.
Wonderful, great, thank you. All right, so now the next item is matters from the public. Do we have any public with matters?
Yes. Well, we have more people over there than usual, so.
Now that they know they could have watched it at home streaming, they might not be back.
That's right. This is a nice kitchen too. It's really fun. My name is Morgan Butler. I'm with the Southern Environmental Law Center. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. One of the items on your agenda today is a resolution pertaining to the package of transportation improvements known as the Route 29 Solutions. Among other things, that resolution requests state officials to bump up the date that funding would be available to study improvements to the hydraulic Route 29 intersection. This would allow that much needed planning work to get started sooner rather than later. With the remarkable progress that has been made to date on several of the other pieces of the Route 29 solutions, and the underpass of Rio and Route 29 in particular, we think it's a smart move to start looking at the hydraulic intersection sooner than may have originally been anticipated. We also share the concern that those funds could be reallocated to other projects in other areas if we wait another year or two before we get moving. So, we support the request for advancing the funding for that work and getting started on it as soon as possible. The resolution also requests that the MPO be authorized to conduct a small area plan for the area around the hydraulic intersection. This too makes a lot of sense because that location comprises both the city and the county, and a regional location calls for a regional planning effort. We're encouraged that if all goes as laid out in the resolution, the hydraulic small area planning would take place much sooner than it likely would if that remains solely a city effort. As the MPO certainly knows, a lot of good regional planning work has been done for the hydraulic intersection area, going back to the 29 H250 studies from the early 2000s. What set that work apart is that it looked at land use and transportation together rather than in isolation, recognizing that each has such a strong effect on the other. The resolution you'll be considering seems to envision the transportation planning work in hydraulic advancing alongside the small area plan. And we see that as a great opportunity to continue looking at transportation and land use as two sides of the same coin. That can help lead to the identification of solutions that make the intersection work better for pedestrians and bikers as well as for cars. And it will encourage the type of vibrant, mixed use, and economically efficient development patterns that both the city and county would like to attract to the corridor. In sum, we support the resolution and we urge you to adopt it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. And matters from the public. Anybody have a response? It's going to be on our agenda, so we may want to discuss it then, but any immediate thoughts?
I just appreciate Morgan taking the time to come and give us his thoughts.
Very good statement.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have an agenda before us. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Change it?
I would like to actually, I know it's a full agenda, but I would love to add something to the agenda. I don't know if you want to make it item 13. This is about a way that we might improve our communication between CAT, and I would suggest perhaps John as well, and the city and the county. And I have a paper laid out to discuss. So if we could add that towards the end of the agenda, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Any thoughts about that?
I know it's a full agenda, but
would you entertain the possibility of that we talk about it being put on a future agenda? As opposed to talking about it, because we don't have any materials yet to prepare for it.
Well, once it's discussed, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not something where we're asking for materials. It's just a process change.
It doesn't need any materials to be. There's nothing that you would support and need materials for, Kathy. It's pretty straightforward. It really is.
Just experience has told me that nothing's straightforward.
Exactly, but I think you'll find this is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It really is.
Okay. Well, I mean, I have no objections to being on that.
And I share a concern just because I have a hard time reading something that's put in front of me while a discussion is going on, and so I won't be able to read what you brought while we're having our meeting, and so, and it isn't because I can't read, but because there's conversation going on at the same time. So, what I could
summarize this in probably 5 minutes.
But what I'd like to suggest is, assuming, and I think we will get through the agenda fine, I think we'll have plenty of time, but that we bring it up and then at that point decide, like if it involves a decision, that we might want to make the decision next time, have the discussion today so that we'll know what to put on the agenda for the decision making. And it may be that we'll realize at that point in the discussion, oh, that's a no-brainer, let's just do it. So kind of leave that possibility open. Does that make sense?
Right. Sounds good.
All right. So with that amendment, which I will add on here, do we have anything else or a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda as amended.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Terrific. Thank you. All right. So we have a public hearing. We do have minutes. I think, hold on, let me just, talking and moving my fingers at the same time seems to be a problem today as well. So, any corrections or comments on the minutes? Any concerns? Oh, that's a big deal. Okay, me neither. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, so the next item that we have really is Resolution for Unified Planning Work Program amendments. We have a public hearing, but I assume we have a presentation first.
And just as a reminder to everybody, and then I'll let Will kind of walk you through any real change, the amendments themselves for the Unified Public Planning Work Program. Every year we adopt a work program for the MPO staff. Occasionally things do crop up during the year that we have to amend that, and this is one of those cases where it's not a major thing, but still something that is required to be placed in there. If I will, we have a resolution doing that, and if I will, I'll just ask Will to kind of brief you briefly of what that amendment is.
That's why we call it brief.
Yes.
Basically, we got the Sharp 2 grant, the Shenandoah Piedmont Area Collaborative Effort, which we also call SPACE.
Yeah.
We got that grant, $100,000 grant. VDOT asked us, and FHWA asked us to update our UPWP to account for those additional funds. While we were doing that, one of the things that we did not put in the UPWP was an update of the TIP, because we need to update the TIP this fiscal year. So we went ahead and added that in there in order to provide sufficient funds for that. We pulled some money from a couple other projects that we didn't think we would have time to get to this year, like a bike ped count effort that we had talked about doing this year, but I think what we're going to do instead is replace that with coordination with the city, county, and university on ways we can better share data and then build on that for next year. So not any really big substantive changes, just adding to that one project, adding to the TIP, update of the TIP, of the new TIP, and removal of the bike ped project.
And Will, you just might, just so they know too, the Sharp 2 I-64 project will begin October 1st with the federal fiscal year and end in our next fiscal year, September 30th.
Any questions before we open a public hearing? I have one question, it really only comes up because the city just did an open data policy, and you talk about sharing data, and I wonder, is that in raw form, or is that more in the form of reports, or how is that information shared?
I think both. It's also data collection, because the city was collecting some data. The university, some of the classes over at the A school, they were collecting bike count data using a different methodology. And then we were wanting to collect bike count data through volunteer efforts. And part of it is just formalizing it so that we're all using the same methodology in a way that it will support each other as we're collecting data. And then also the raw data that we already have, making sure that we can share that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Opening the public hearing. I shouldn't do that right by the speaker. Sorry, people at home. Anybody to speak at the public hearing? Hearing none. Closing the public hearing. All right. Discussion, motions.
I move that we adopt the resolution of approval for the CA MPO's fiscal year 2017 Unified Planning Work Program.
Second.
We have 2 seconds. I'm sure you can figure out what to choose.
Ann can.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Great. All right. Resolution for TIP amendment also has a public hearing. Y'all are going to get a workout if you want to say anything. You get lots of chances. Do we have a presentation on this?
You have the resolution before you. These are the projects that you approved last year or recommended for the City of Charlottesville's then House Bill 2 and now Smart Scale Funding Program that were awarded. And so we have to add these to the TIP program.
So the funding is there. It's just a matter of adding them to the list.
Just adding to the
constrained
list. The city figuring out how to implement them.
Okay. Any questions?
Just, I mean, in terms of the funding doesn't increase in the constrained long range plan because it was already in there allocated, correct?
Yes. It just moves it.
Okay.
Right.
This just puts it into the TIP document, which is the federal planning document for actual funding of the projects.
And the funding goes with it.
Well, the long range plan funding doesn't change.
Okay.
This just basically moves that money from the long range plan into the short range plan.
Okay. Okay.
So, but those are all part of the same plan.
Got it. No, I understand now. Okay. Thank you. All right. Opening the public hearing. Don't all jump at once. Closing the public hearing. Discussion, questions, motions?
Congratulations on getting something awarded.
Thank you.
And 3.
3?
It's good.
Delighted, yeah.
So I move that we adopt the resolution authorizing amendments to the FY17, FY18 Transportation Improvement Program.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right. And I will only add there was some. Oh, no, not there. Never mind. Okay, so the next item that we have is the resolution for local submissions to the VDOT Smart Scale funding applications.
Caught up on the screen in case you...
And if you're looking on this on your own agenda, it's page 33.
This is, as you know, all of the Smart Scale funding applications are due by the end of September. These are the requests from both the City of Charlottesville and Albemarle County for the submissions that they anticipate making locally. Next on your agenda are the submissions that the MPO is recommending to be applied for. And so
can you explain about the different pots of money that these are going to ask for?
There are 2 pots of money that we can apply for projects within the Smart Scale program. The local district pot and for the MPO, that is strictly the Culpeper district. It's a little bit different for the PDC because one of our counties is in the Lynchburg district. But for the MPO, we can apply for local monies. When I say we, the local governments can apply for local monies from the Culpeper district, and the MPO can apply from the second pot of money, which are for statewide corridors that are statewide competition. And so those are the 2 funding sources that we apply for.
And are they all decided by the CTB?
Yes.
Commonwealth Transportation Board? Okay.
Yes. And they go through a very lengthy process at the first district level, and the MPO can apply first at the district level, then at the central office before being recommended to the CTB, probably around May.
Well, the scores become available in January.
Okay.
Yes, in January. And then there's I think that they'll vote on them in May to be incorporated into the 6-year improvement plan, basically those that move forward in our funding.
And the projects are in your packets. The city of Charlottesville is applying for West Main streetscapes, as well as improvements at Barracks Road and Emmett Street. And for some of these, let me say, they're still in the development process. So final figures of what's being requested are not in. Drawings are not necessarily available that are final drawings. And so this is pretty much asking for your recommendation of these concepts. Again, should something come out in the future that is contrary to what the concepts were, you still have that ability to go to VDOT during this process and say, thank you, but withdraw these projects.
Will these have dollar amounts by Friday or not?
Oh yes, they have to. Okay. Yes. And I'll take a side note too. I mean, it's fast and furious with the number of projects that the Culpeper district or all of the VDOT districts are having to process this time of year. And I mean, they're spending a lot of time and effort to do that. I don't want to make it sound like it's a last minute effort. It's just that many projects and that much information.
But there's no reason to think that these won't be ready to go.
Oh, they'll be ready. Okay. I mean, I'm speaking for the local government.
Okay.
But, yes.
And if there's a modification in the concept, that can't be done after today, as opposed to
that it cannot be done after they're submitted. Chuck, it's my understanding that you could amend some, but
during the process after the cutoff, you can't submit any new information. But basically, we'll have to go through a validation process where we validate the submissions, and during that time, we can make changes to the submission and add information. We can evaluate the cost estimates and adjust those accordingly, but we're not going to add new features to a project.
But if it was a reduction based upon new information,
we can look at some of those.
And the timetable for that is during October?
It's the first couple of weeks in October while we're validating the projects.
Thank you.
And for Albemarle County, it's Ryle Mills Road at Burtmore, US 250 at Radford Lane, US 240 and 250 intersection improvements. Burtmore Drive extended up around the northern area of US Route 29 and Route 20 and 649 intersection improvements.
So I have a question.
And we do have, I might take this chance to have Kevin McDermott, the transportation planner for Albemarle County, for Albemarle, and Jeanette's here for the city. If you have some specific questions to the projects. And Kevin, I think I'm gonna take the priority to say if you would also introduce too your guest, and perhaps after 1 or 2 days on the job, we'll be glad to hear any answers there too.
Thank you.
And I just have one question though. So the dollar amounts shown, say, for example, in the Albemarle projects, those are an estimate of, those are what they are asking for from the process. It's not the total cost of the project.
It's the request.
Or is it the total cost of the project?
Yeah, I can clarify that. These numbers were preliminary figures that were presented to us from some earlier engineering study, and they're no longer correct.
Yeah,
so these numbers have changed quite a bit. We have just gotten final numbers in the past week, and unfortunately, the Radford Lane has gone up, essentially doubled in cost. We found what I see here. And I'd also like to add that the Bergmar Drive Extended project, that one has been split up into 2 projects now, so it's actually slightly different from what we see here.
So with regards to West Main Street, for example, we have been told recently that we won't have an accurate estimate actually until January when the schematics are done. So we have a rough estimate now, and the city has committed monies to its capital budget for that project, but it's not the full cost of that project. We're trying to piece together multiple sources of funding for that project. So I'm just trying to get an idea, what dollar amount are we asking for in this submittal?
Whatever, and I've gotten comments back from the L&D section because I had them review it and they sent something back yesterday. The biggest thing is when they forecasted the cost, they only forecasted it out to 2021, and the funding for Smart Scale won't be available until 2021. So you're going to have to forecast it further. Now, any city money that is separate, that can be used before that 2021 date. So that was one of my comments back to the city.
Say that again.
Basically, the funding for that's going to be available with this application is not available for use until October 2021 or August 1st, 2020.
For 5 years from now?
Yeah.
Right. Well, if you remember, last year when they awarded or funded the projects that were submitted for under HB2,
yes,
they only allocated 5 out of the 6 years. So the last year, the 6-year plan, they didn't use that money. This year, they're taking, you add a year to the 6-year plan. So they're taking that last year, the 6th year, and this year, the FY22, to fund those projects. So that's when the money becomes available.
So all these applications, we're talking about 6 years from now.
So when they talk about the cost went up, the cost may not have gone up. It's the
projection.
year you're estimating out to, and all projects will be treated the same. So it's.
So why are we applying now?
That's the cycle, and so they'll do it every 2 years for those out year projects. Okay. To fill
so
out
it's up to the locality then
I did not realize it was that
projects as that money comes in to complete phase of the project.
These are projects. There's very few projects we have initial funding on, to where those phases like PE could start prior to that 2021 year.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the ones, since you guys are putting in, the city's gonna put in, I think you guys are looking at $11 million. Right. That could be, you could start the PE phase and possibly some of the right-of-way utility phase earlier than that 2021, and you could have that done before that, and so you could look at the rest of the right-of-way and the construction phase after the 2021. But we need to make sure that the estimate reflects that year in there, and that was one of my comments back to the city, and we've got to still work through some of those details.
Well, no, you answered my question.
Chuck, can I ask the reason that they would be able to do that is they would be using their own money in those initial years, and then
it's just part of the cost.
And most of the
I see your portion.
Yes.
Like I said, most of the projects we don't have any funding available until 2021. There's a few, like Bridle Mills Road in the county, that's got money already allocated to that project that could be used for the PE and right-of-way phase, and then you couldn't build the project until 2021, but you could start all the other work before then and have it done. So when the funding becomes available, you can advertise it for construction.
Which would be an incentive to have match money.
Yes.
Yes, you could start doing something.
The other side of that, I know that the county's also looking at revenue share money on 2 of the projects. The way that works is you can't take credit for that. If you get awarded, then we can reduce the Smart Scale project, but it doesn't become effective until, we won't know that until after the submission date. So you can't get credit for that until that funding is available, awarded. So even though you're submitting for revenue share funding, you don't get to reduce the estimate for smart scale by that amount. Because you don't necessarily know if you're gonna get that revenue share money awarded.
But the revenue sharing was a separate bucket then.
It is a separate bucket, it is a separate bucket,
So it's
but
not
you
affecting
can't.
the smart scale total then, because it's a separate bucket.
The total for smart scale is what the cost of the project is.
Yeah.
If you get the revenue share, you can accelerate that schedule and it might actually save you money in the project.
The 25% inflation factor is.
Yeah. So, but I just wanted to point that out for that particular project, the two county projects where they're looking at revenue share.
So as we're looking out that many years, if a project is awarded, say the roundabout at Radford Lane in US 250 was, put in at $7 million. So in 6 years, when it comes time to actually build that, is it a guarantee that that money will be available, or if the budget goes down for the state, are they going to start taking money out of that?
When we award the project, we're basically gonna pursue that project.
Is it an obligation or a like if we have it, we'll spend it?
Well, I mean, nothing's a guarantee,
all
but
the
the
years of
intent
the
is to
bypass,
hold those commitments, and you'll have projects that underrun and that money goes back in.
Yeah.
If they overrun and they don't have, like if it's a locality project and they can't find the additional money, that whole project goes back.
So there's nothing changed. I'm just thinking because HB or the smart scale is a new way of doing this, but that has happened like when the recession hit, things got pushed back. Yeah. So that there's nothing new. It doesn't change that. That's still it's.
And there's a lot of avenues that we could pursue. It could just delay the project.
Right.
And we may not advertise new projects, or we may not request applications for new projects until we take care of the ones we've already got funded. And we just have to look at it at that time. So.
But okay, perfect. Okay.
So I did have just a question of clarity. So we're going to be approving these today.
Approve the application.
For submission. But what I'm getting, we're approving them without really numbers. And what's a little confusing is that we have numbers on two and $3 amounts, which I think are accurate. And then the others don't have a dollar amount. So I guess I'm just a little.
And we could have, and it's your option too, because we had to get the packet out, and these are changing daily. They are not due to VDOT until the end of November.
The resolution is
the
resolution for these projects isn't required until they've got to submit it by December 1st.
So we could hold off on the vote, and you could consider these at your November meeting. Now the risk to that, and that's why I wanted to get you what the at least up to date information that we had is. An event happen.
Would it make sense to say approve or not approve this today, and then in November, if it's significantly changed, to a substitution?
You can't substitute. Basically, we'll let you know what the costs are.
But I mean, a new resolution saying that we would, like this one turned out to be too much, so we don't want that one, so we'll.
Well, the applications are due by Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by midnight on Friday is when the cutoff is for the applications. So all the localities have to submit their applications.
And there's no reason not to do it today.
Yeah, we don't want to delay anything. Yeah. I'm not asking that. I'm just saying it's a little.
And this is just you're basically saying that you're supporting these projects.
These projects, right?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't say they're going to get selected, and it's an added documentation layer saying that you're supporting the localities.
You know what staff is doing.
Yes.
And we're here representing the decisions that our board and council have already made. We're not making this up.
Yep. No, I think we're ready to move forward on
I just
that.
want to make sure.
I have one more small question then. Would it make any sense to simply, the only amendment would be just simply to strike those dollar amounts?
Well, that's what I was getting at, because we have two that are incorrect on this backup document.
Leave them all blank.
And then no dollars beside the other projects.
I mean, it's more or less, I think last year we didn't even put a description, we just had what the title of the project was, and we just had a list of projects.
I like the
I like-
description, but
yeah, I do too.
take
Gives you a
the
little
dollar
more
numbers off.
information on what's-
Yeah, let's take those, because
So
I think that's
I would move that
confusing.
we adopt this resolution striking the dollar amounts.
Okay.
And I would only add one slight change that where it says local governments, it's the apostrophe should be after the governments, just because there are two governments involved. And that being said, any further discussion?
Do you wanna split the, northern project, cause it's actually two projects? Meeting Street Extended would be one, and then the Lewis and Clark, Innovation Drive Extension would be the second one. Or then number 5 would get split into two projects.
Number 4.
No, 4, be number
No,
4.
it's number 5.
It's not
Or
Brookmark.
number 4, excuse me.
Yeah,
So
number 4.
4 would get split into two different projects.
And on this, what are the two different projects?
It would be Meeting Street Extended, which is basically from Berkmar ends at Meeting Street. And this is the other end of it, from Meeting Street to Airport Road is the first project. And then the second project goes from the end of Innovation Drive to Lewis and Clark, which is an extension of
So
that.
maybe 4A and B, or do you want 4, 5, 6?
It doesn't matter. It's up to you all, however you wanna do it.
4, 5, and 6, okay.
I would just, to clarify it, since that's the way the applications are being submitted.
Alrighty. So, any further discussion? And do we need if we're doing, we should probably do first a vote to change what we've got on the table as our motion. So you're moving that we amend the motion to include splitting that into two pieces and the typo thing, which didn't really need a motion, but and Kathy, were you seconding that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, all in favor of changing the motion? Aye. All in favor of the motion as amended?
Without the dollars, okay.
Without the dollars and with that thing broken
With
up
the
in pieces?
split.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, very good, thank you.
We got it.
We get there eventually. Okay, so the next item is the same thing with the MPO application.
Pretty much the same thing as I mentioned,
And
these
this is
are
our second MPO application resolution, because we did one last time
we did
too.
one at the last month for Free Bridge. This is the exit 118 and exit 124. The MPO will be submitting applications for funding from the state pot because of it being along US 29 and Interstate 64 in both project areas. These are, as a reminder, last year we submitted very comprehensive applications for improvements at both of these interchanges. Both projects ranked very, very close to the bottom statewide. They were very expensive projects, $140 million for one and pretty close to 46 for the other. So we've tried to break these down into more manageable pieces that will at least give some improvements. The VDOT and Commonwealth Transportation Board has changed some of the scoring criteria, which should also help us in these areas, in the areas of both safety and economic development. So we do feel that they're at least more likely to receive more favorable rankings. Just as a reminder though, this is statewide for less than half the funding that was available last year. So the competition is steep. Just like to throw that in so we aren't.
Better than a lottery ticket.
One thing is for sure is if we don't apply, we will not get it.
Right.
That's for sure.
That's right.
So with that in mind, these are the projects, exit 118, just in kind of simple terms. I think there's a drawing behind here, make sure we're in the right order. Yes, this is exit 118 that would be adding a lane on the ramp headed to Fontaine Avenue. Right now you have a crossover of traffic of weaving at that location, and so this would allow people coming off of I-64 headed westbound as they get off, if they're going to Fontaine, they would stay in the right-hand lane and never have to weave or change lanes until they get to Fontaine.
So it's doubling what's there now, because there already is a continuous right lane where people can stay without any trouble. I don't know why they don't.
It is 2 lanes back to a certain point, and then there's a little gap where the pavement's wide, but you don't have enough width. What this does is, right now when you get off going westbound on 64, you have to get over if you want to go northbound, or you get off at the ramp. What this does is add a choice lane for the inside lane. So the people that are coming from eastbound 64, they come around the loop to go north, they can basically just get over in the choice lane as opposed to having to get over in the turn lane, in the ramp, on the ramp. So it gets rid of that weave right there. It just improves it so it's not as much of an issue and reduces the safety impacts.
Are there accidents there?
There's a lot of, this came out of a STAR study that we did.
Remember, we discussed it a year ago, I just don't know.
5 or 6 years ago, we did a STAR study, and this was the one of the recommendations that came out of that study. This is the cheaper of the version, the cheaper solution of the two. The other basically extended the lane across the bridge on Fontaine and did some additional improvements, but this was the one that was recommended because it was the lower cost of the two options.
Is it still about 2.6?
Yes.
Million?
And was this part of the grander project that the university had put in when they got permission to do the extra building at Fontaine? Because there was
wasn't part
all sorts of improvements on Fontaine, and this was not.
This was not part of that project.
All right.
Then the other part of exit 118 is on 29 heading south.
Go to the next one.
Can you do the pre-picture first?
See, that's yeah. I'm sorry.
I think it's missing.
They have the wrong. They have the wrong.
Okay.
I can explain it. What the version is. As you're going, you have conflict point between the two loop ramps.
Which project are you talking about now?
The other 118 project. There's 2 loop ramps on 64. One's to get on from 29, the other one's to get off of 64 onto 29. And you have a weave at the top. And you also have a weave on 29 at the bottom. What this does is it eliminates that ramp. And by what it does is it creates a southbound left turn movement onto the eastbound on ramp on 64 and moves that traffic to that ramp. And it eliminates that one loop and both those weaving movements at the interchange. So it'll resolve the safety issues. Right now we have a tremendous number of accidents, rear-end collisions and stuff on 64 because of those weaving movements that occur, and this would do away with that conflict. And it was traffic engineering did a safety study, and that was the recommendations that came out of it as a way to address that issue. This does not address Ann's real concern about the northbound left turn, and we're going to do a study to try to resolve a solution for that.
Just the other day, I was coming north on 29. No, I'm sorry, I was going south on 29. And there were 8 18-wheelers lined up, completely blocking the faster lane of 29 north because they couldn't get into the slip lane to go across to westbound 64. And now we're going to have the exact same thing heading south on 29 and going east. And so I'm very worried. I know this is what seems to be more affordable, but I'm just very worried about what's going to happen.
The difference is this will, as part of this, where we're looking at signalizing that intersection, that crossover, well, where the left turns are, and it's going to be dualized. You'll be able to make dual left turns.
That is news to me, and I'm thrilled.
We're signalizing.
Okay.
So you can
Signal
stop
makes
the
everything
traffic that's
possible.
heading northbound and allow those left turns to occur. It is a heavy movement. It's all people coming out of Charlottesville that want to head east on 64. And it's really heavy.
And they're speeding, they're going 65 coming off that bridge, and then the tractor trailer starts from a dead stop, and they're in the thing for 20 seconds crossing the road. It's just horrifying. So that was great, and that will help to slow the traffic down, period.
Well,
and
it's
also
only in the northbound movement. The southbound, for the southbound left turn movement. The northbound left turn movement we're still having to go ahead and look at that one, and that could be something we look at signalizing it.
So
We can't have both of them working because they're in different places. The slip lanes are in different places. That's too bad. I was really hoping you could have them both traveling at the same time.
Because we're gonna signalize that crossover where those left turns are gonna occur, you'll be able to cue those tractor trailers before they get to the right turn lane,
So the stop line would be far enough back that both east and west on 64 could move at the same time, even though the light's only on one.
Well,
Is that what
the
you're saying?
the signalization at the north, that movement won't be signalized.
They'll never get across.
But we'll have to look at that and see if there's something we can do to resolve that issue. And that's one of the things that we were proposing with the other project that we wanted to study at the interchange at Fontaine Avenue.
So when are you anticipating that signalization would happen?
When this project is funded.
With this project, that's what I'm trying to figure, with this project.
Possibly 5 or plus years.
Okay, all right, I'm just trying to figure out, so it would be with this project, okay.
Yes.
And the budget did change on this
This project, actually, we didn't have the utility estimate at the time because we didn't think there was utilities, but there's fiber optic that runs parallel to the road. And we got that information earlier this week, and we changed the estimate to 6.5 million as opposed to 5.5 million.
But we're not gonna put amounts on our resolution anyway, so.
Yeah.
And I just have a bigger question about, again, smart scale, because I'm just looking at the factor areas that they use as criteria, and it's safety, congestion mitigation, accessibility, environmental quality, economic development. Are we at a category where we use land use as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that does factor, because we've reached the 200,000 mark.
No, we're in category B.
We don't want to be in.
We're category B. Category B includes transportation and land use.
Okay, because I was just looking at the website, and it said land use was only considered for areas over 200,000, and I didn't think we were there yet.
Originally,
Okay, good.
we weren't in that area, but that was one of the things that the MPO pushed for.
Yeah, so that.
To get that.
Thank you, previous idea.
You're welcome.
B, which includes that factor.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
And one of the advantages we're doing with these projects is last time around, we didn't include any economic development with part of the application. This year, I think we are going to have some economic development.
Good.
Which will
Make it stronger. Make it stronger.
So
Yeah, that's good.
Will be better with lower cost. Still gonna hopefully get the same level of scoring from congestion, and it will address the safety issues. So hopefully we'll overall get better score out.
That's good.
At a lower cost.
Did you wanna show that other intersection?
Yes.
Just real quick, we don't need a whole lot of discussion about it.
Go back 2 slides, it would.
That one.
Yeah, still. This is converting the existing diamond interchange to a divergent diamond interchange by doing the crossover. It allows for the left turns to move basically free flow for the most part, coming on and off the interchange.
Okay.
And there are stoplights at each end, right? Is that
Well, there's a stoplight at where the main line traffic crosses.
Straight.
Right there.
So the people, if you want to go straight through, you're going to have to stop it
Twice.
to both lights.
All right. Okay, so do we have, with the amounts taken off, I'm assuming, do we have a motion for further discussion? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay. The next item
is to consider a request to the Secretary of Transportation for the Commonwealth to perhaps a little bit of history as well as the recommended resolution and request is for the hydraulic Hillsdale Route 29 small area to make sure I'm right.
And this is the item that Mr. Butler was commenting on at the beginning of the meeting.
Earlier.
Number 9.
Is as we're completing a portion of the Route 29 solutions, There is also funding as part of that program to do preliminary engineering only for the hydraulic intersection. Again, to improve traffic, not just for Route 29, but also the east-west movement of hydraulic. There is already funded to begin in FY18 preliminary engineering, design, planning, and construction of Hillsdale South that would connect hydraulic to areas around the US 250 bypass. Again, it's not definitive because the design work hasn't been completing and the planning work hasn't been completed. In 2014, the city sent a letter of request after the Route 29 Solutions projects were funded, asking VDOT to delay that project so that hydraulic, Hillsdale, and 29 could be looked at and planned as one bigger project.
Right.
So to keep the process moving and to try not to have a delay between the current work and the planning to begin for the hydraulic Hillsdale 29, we have to come up with a name for that area. To begin, we're proposing that we ask the Secretary and CTB to combine both of those projects together. So that right now you've got $10 million for preliminary design and construction at Hillsdale and another $10 million for hydraulic for a $20 million project, and to allow that the planning and preliminary engineering or design work to begin on that bigger area. And as Morgan mentioned earlier, because a small area plan and considering for land use with the transportation is so important and is so directly impacting the traffic and transportation needs in that area, that a small area plan be funded out of that funding. And secondly, to move that funding up to the current fiscal year so that we can begin immediately. Finally, with that is that the MPO staff at least believes that the work that's been completed on Route 29 Solutions has been so successful, not just from a design construction standpoint, but very much because of the process that has taken place. The civic community engagement, including the businesses, including communities, not even within our MPO and the not decision-making, but at least the advising of this project, the transparency that's been created with this project, that the process itself is very, very important to continue with any future work for Route 29 Solutions. And so what we're asking you to do is to ask the Secretary to move this, to combine the projects, move these projects into the earliest fiscal funding year that VDOT can, and to continue the same process as it's been started with Route 29 Solutions.
And just as a little bit of background, I was on the advisory panel that was sort of looking at the development of this whole thing, and one of the things that, with the blessing of the MPO as the MPO rep on that committee, we said that we felt that the hydraulic area should be studied after the Rio interchange was done and the parallel roads were working, so that you could actually see how it worked under the new circumstances. Because if you studied it too much ahead of time, then you wouldn't really know what the new circumstances were. And this tees it up so that will happen. So it's not moving it further up than that. It's just making sure that there's not a long gap between those things. Right. And to that end, I would actually, and I talked to Chip about this before, but I would like to, on number 2 of the therefore it be it resolved section on the resolution.
Number 2, okay.
Just for clarity, because one thing I don't want is people to read this and think, oh my God, they're rushing it forward and they're going to construct a big thing there, and there's not been public process. That we request the CTB to combine the Hillsdale South and hydraulic intersection planning and engineering, preliminary engineering budgets, because that's what these are. It's not changing anything. It's just clarifying
I think that's
what the budgets are that we're asking to be combined. And then I would actually like to remove number 5, because I don't think it really does anything to add to this, and it, again, kind of just adds anxiety to my heart, and I think probably to the public as well, that we're not trying to shortcut anything, that this is part of that process. And I think that urgency is clear in the whereases already in the resolution.
Think about that, let me
Yeah,
see. So taking out 5?
Number
Losing
5.
momentum is a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I don't.
You're
Yeah, I
gonna
don't
lose it all
understand
together
why.
if you wait around. You got a whole year to get some progress here.
Yeah, I would prefer to leave that language.
Yeah. So request the Secretary of Transportation begin transportation planning process, so adequate information will be available for smart scale funding by September 18th.
To apply for, it says.
Okay.
Apply for.
Which means you won't get it until 6 years
Yeah.
after that
So,
anyway.
yeah, okay, fair enough, all right,
Yeah,
I take it
yeah.
back with the 6-year delay.
And throughout,
5 year
it's,
delay.
Yeah.
the
No, that-
idea of
that's
working
fine.
with land use is embedded, so
Yep.
it's
No,
not, it's not
I
transportation
was thinking
getting
of it
ahead.
more closer, so that's fine.
No bulldozers in 2017.
Yeah.
No bulldozers in 2018, so.
I just have a logistical question then, was the idea being then that the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission would take the lead in coordinating, getting the consultant to assist in this process with smart area plan?
With VDOT and with the city, you know,
And with the
like,
city.
with the city and county,
And county,
again,
yeah.
this is,
Good.
this is a
Still-
joint, and
it's a joint.
Still
being an
joint.
interjurisdictional area.
Right.
Our
But
thought
you would be
is
the lead in
that
coordinating everybody?
The MPO would be.
Yeah, not the TJPDC so much, except it's the same person, but the MPO.
Right, it would actually be the MPO because we have existing contracts with VDOT. The other thing is that we probably have understanding the capacity of both the city and the county and the number of projects staff's already working on. We probably have the flexibility to temporarily staff up
Moving it out, yeah.
accordingly and then staff back down that local governments don't always have.
So I guess I just wanna have a
Yes.
clearer idea though, because there will be a need for a consultant on this project to do the small area plan.
Oh, most definitely.
And so who is gonna be managing that contract?
Our recommendation would be the MPO.
Okay.
Would manage that. I would see an advisory group
Of the
that
city and
helps
county?
to give
Right,
us,
okay.
because
Right.
this is, I mean, we're managing your collective project. I
Okay.
don't want it to seem like it's an
No, I think
MPO
that's-
project.
And
Yes.
staff and governing folks will be part of that.
Right,
Oversight.
We'll come up with what's the best and just in a little bit more detail, in addition to that, we would be working with VDOT to, you know, for a facilitated consultant that will be managing the process as well
Right.
as how Route 29 has been taking place.
I would like to interject though, however, that
Very different.
will the consultants be selected competitively as opposed to just being on call for the VDOT? Because I do think the city and the county representatives should weigh in on who that consultant is.
I agree.
I really feel strongly about that.
Well, the
Just to make
MPO
sure that
board,
we get the right,
perhaps, as a way to get,
I'm sorry.
maybe the MPO board as a way to get at that.
Would that come to the board?
I definitely think that would be something, please, John, you know, step in, but I think that would be something for us to discuss with VDOT. I mean, I could immediately see 2 separate routes, one just being an open RFP or RFQ type of
That's what I
selection
would
process.
I think is the best.
Or a semi-open RFP, RFQ process to firms that are already under a VDOT contract. I'm not saying which would be
For
best
the
for
record, I
us,
would like
yes.
to make it more open.
Yes.
The group that did the hydraulic 250, for example, was not of the on-call, but gave a really good project. I just think it would give us more choice and the expertise that we're looking for.
However, I don't think we can avoid working from a list that's pre-qualified by VDOT. They're gonna pay for it, so they're gonna need.
Well,
that's-
I mean, you're
that's what
asking this,
talking
right?
about.
You're asking them you're asking VDOT if this is something we could do.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I mean, John, what do you think?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, in terms of basically what we're requesting is for the preliminary engineering to be available come July 1st, 2017. And at that point, we would, for a project that size, if it was our project, we would procure a project-specific consultant for the transportation work. So the small area plan from a land use standpoint would have to come from the counties.
Okay.
There's two.
That's
two different
okay, that's what you're getting.
That's what I'm getting at.
certainly
The land-
have
That gets to what
our
Kathy's trying to get
consultant
to.
working on the transportation
Is
aspect
a
of that
different-
plan to make
Yeah.
sure it fits in with whatever the small area plan has.
Yeah.
But you would have to have, well, you wouldn't have to have two consultants, but you'd have to have two funding sources.
Yeah.
One for the.
That clarifies
And
it,
that-
yeah.
So in the set aside from the 29 solutions, is there funding for the small area plan?
No, that's what you're asking.
That's what we're asking them.
For.
Yeah.
If we
Take
could,
it from the,
Yes.
I got it,
Yeah.
to take it from Hillsdale South
So
and
we
put
could
it on
do
the
that.
small area plan, okay.
When we did Places 29, we put up some of the money and the county put up some of the money to fund the project, and the MPO, the county, basically ran the program and the project. And we funded that through, actually the money was transferred from the secondary 6-year plan to the county from the Northern Free State Road project, which is defunct now. So I'm not sure how this one would work out. And unless we got a grant or something like that through SPR funds or something like that to fund that. And I don't know if they fund, we do fund small area plans, and that could be something that might be a resource. We'd have to
That is
look
what the Hillsdale South, that's already in the bucket, that's what that is, correct?
No,
It's an engineering only?
engineering right away and construction for $10 million.
But you
And
don't have to
that's
build
really
without small
the
area plan.
question on that modification is, you have for hydraulic, you only have preliminary engineering money. On Hillsdale South, you have all three phases, preliminary engineering, right of way, and construction. So what are we specifically asking them to do? When we say combine the budgets, are we
Planning and
asking to combine
preliminary
it to a
engineering.
project? I mean, you can certainly move it between phases once you know what those dollar amounts are gonna be. But when I read this, I thought the intention was just to have one project with that funding.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
That's what
And
I thought.
that was our intent in writing this up, is that.
That's what makes
but
sense to
I'm
me.
concerned that the land use coordination piece and the importance of the land use component of a small area plan will be lost if it's purely put in the engineering, and we can't lose that.
But they don't have money for that anyway, so that's gonna be a city investment.
Tease it up, so that's happening, so the land use planning is happening simultaneously and in
But
collaboration
we still
instead
have
of
that funding
separately
for the land use planning component.
locally.
And our intent was to make this request and then work it out
Tease
as
out.
to what VDOT can do, what they can't do, or
Okay.
perhaps, it could end up similar to the business marketing 29 solutions, where VDOT said, hey, we can contribute this amount, but it's gonna take this much match. To me, this gets that conversation going in the direction to getting the project moving forward. But I don't think, I certainly don't even try to start guessing what can and can't be done until those conversations are held.
It's sort of like we're doing at Rio Road right now with the consultant that's doing the small area study on that project. It's basically that we apply for that money through OPI, the Office of Intermodal Planning, for a UDA type of grant that would do a area study for that area. And then we can get a consultant on board to do it, like we're doing with Rio Road. You can phase that, but if we're doing the PE, you don't have to phase the engineering part of it, because we'll have a consultant on board to do the engineering. It's just that land use piece that we're having a consultant do on that one, and then they're gonna do the transportation piece in a later phase. It would be the similar type of program where we could fund it that way, and that might be an option that we could investigate.
Well, approving this resolution is not closing those options for us.
No.
Because I understand the need to be able to fund the engineering, but I also want to make sure that we don't get put in a straitjacket that money is only for engineering for roads, and we cannot integrate land use planning in that contract.
I'm not gonna say we can't do it, we can do it to a certain extent as part of the project, and that's part of the project development. I just don't know to the extent you want, we may not be able to go to the extent that you're looking for. Because we're gonna have to coordinate land use, but as part of the project development, how the impacts are gonna be on the businesses and the area that we're looking at impacting. It's just to the extent that we can go outside of that footprint, I don't know, or look at from an economic development standpoint what it's gonna do. I don't think we can go into that realm with the engineering phase.
Well, could we add language under now therefore be it resolved that it would be that the Charlottesville-Albemarle MPO Policy Board recommends to the Commonwealth Transportation Board, the Virginia Secretary of Transportation, the City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and the Charlottesville-Albemarle MPO to immediately initiate the process for planning the transportation improvements of the hydraulic and Route 29 intersection in coordination with future land use planning.
Well, I mean, we would always do that, it's just a matter of your development of land use planning. You almost have to have that first to develop what the transportation needs are. So we would always do that. Now, what we're saying though, we don't necessarily have that land use planning, so, you have to work through that.
Well, then almost kind of reinforces what I just said. It needs to be in coordination with the land use plan. And that's not in here.
Planning process.
No, but again, under
given.
federal guidelines, that's how we project the traffic that's associated with the transportation improvement based on
I think
land.
you're answering a slightly different question than Kathy's asking, because when the word plan is both a verb and a noun, and I think she's using it as a verb.
So
you have
the
to,
land, how
So
we
not
do
the
land
plan
use
itself,
will
but the
inform
planning process.
transportation. Then almost makes, that almost sure that they're reinforces what I just said. It needs to be in coordination with each other. And that is not evident in this resolution.
I think what Chip said makes some sense, that there's step-by-step process. See, if we get to second base on the first request, then we'll sort out the details. Yeah. If we start demanding a whole lot of details right now, we're never
This
gonna
is
get
just
to
one
second
line,
base.
in coordination with land use planning.
But that unfortunately doesn't have enough detail to be able to, for the recipient of the request, to know what we mean by that, really. I mean, are we talking about $10 million in 5 years or what? So I think keeping it simple may be a really worthwhile thing right now.
Yeah, I agree. Move it forward, and then Chip and John, we would be coming back to this again at some, obviously, where we'd have other discussions.
I mean, there's local money that's gonna have to be found.
I think
Yeah,
it's certainly
gonna have to
staff's
be.
intention that happen. I don't
Yeah,
think that's
I mean,
gonna
I
be
don't
lost.
Staff's
think-
intention will not be translated into a contract. It will not be translated into an understanding with our funding source. We need to make it clear that we're doing this in conjunction with land use planning. And it's not clear. Unless I'm missing something.
I guess I have, John, any thoughts?
Looking in the
no, I
whereas.
mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt to put it in there in terms of to get the intention, but all I'm saying is be done anyway. We have
Well,
to have
I would
that
feel
information.
comfortable if we had the intention
Yeah,
in
and I don't think
coordination
it
with land
hurts
use
one
planning.
thing to add that
Yeah.
in there and gives us something to hang our hats on
Yes.
in future discussions.
If you can feel confident that it's not gonna hurt our chances of getting,
That's
making
my
this successful.
concern. I don't wanna add
think you're the
something that
concern.
at this
Then
stage
I'm-
is
Then I'm
gonna
comfortable
throw it out.
adding
I
that,
don't
yeah.
think so.
I mean, that's an expectation of the
I can't imagine you would,
as well
that's
as
right.
VDOT.
It's
That's-
land use, yes.
We'd like to do a lot more
Thank
of
you, though. That
Yeah.
gives me
Then
a
I'd say
comfort level.
that to give Kathy the comfort that I got through the adding of planning and preliminary development or engineering, I would support that. We want everybody to feel comfortable that this is not gonna get forgotten, this.
Where is that? I'm sorry, I'm trying
That
to take
was
that.
In number one,
But now therefore,
at the end of number one of the therefores.
So John, you feel comfortable that adding it in that spot is What'll work, okay.
After intersection?
Actually, yes,
I had it under, it was the last now therefore be resolved in that introductory paragraph,
even better, yep.
where I said it was, to immediately initiate the process for planning the transportation improvements of the hydraulic and Route 29 intersection in nearby roadways in coordination with land use planning.
Okay. Yep.
In coordination, okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, is that a motion?
Well, I do have just a couple of administrative items in terms of that I can provide the chip, just on the date for the, on the first page of whereas the project, the actual contract date is October 30th.
All right.
And on number 6, we would start to implement the adaptive signal timing upon completion of the other construction projects.
Right.
We want everything in final format before the signals learn what the traffic wants to do.
Okay.
And then the other one was just the project, instead of development advisory panel, was project delivery.
Sure.
So I would
just a few administrative changes, okay.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
No, you were the motion.
Second. Second.
All right.
All that conversation on
Okay.
track.
With the changes as John and
including
Kathy and
your
John.
request, and mine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion?
Jeanette has something.
Thank you, Jeanette. Yes.
Ask a question for
Please.
Hillsdale Drive South and the long
And why don't you come up here just since we are now, although I couldn't find it online where we're being streamed, but someone will eventually see it.
Look, the camera just turned.
So introduce yourself. You're being watched.
That's right.
for Hillsdale Drive.
Wait, first tell us who you are.
Jeanette County PCI Program Manager for the City of Charlottesville.
Thank you.
So for the Hillsdale Drive South project and the long-range transportation plan as well as the STIP, the project is identified as extending Hillsdale Drive from Hydraulic to Holiday. It doesn't actually extend to 250, and this is opening up that possibility of connecting to 250. So I just want to make sure when I'm talking to our constituents as well as looking at these documents, are we opening up the possibility of extending Hillsdale 25-mile-an-hour road to 250?
Unlikely, but yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
This is what the study was investigated.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what is going to be
So can we
studied.
just make sure that that's reflected in the minutes, that is a question that we need to, that is of a concern? Is that enough for this moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that is why it got broken out in the first place. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Good. All right, now we have the public participation plan.
Okay. We have been working to update a number of our policies and plans within the MPO, and Nick's been working quite a few months on getting these done, and he's got the draft that we included in our packet for you. No major changes, but meeting a number of new federal policy requirements, as well as trying to meet our own local needs as well. Nick, would you like to say anything? Just again, a brief overview.
It wasn't a very in-depth edit to the plan. Based on comments from FHWA and VDOT, they wanted a list of people on all of our committees. So that was the major change that we put in there. I did notice in the draft that you guys have in front of you, I think there's a couple of committee members like Gerald, who was no longer with the county. That will need to tweak and update.
And my email address is a G instead of a Q.
Oh, yeah.
This little typo.
So a few little tweaks and then can have that in front of you, but it was a pretty straightforward, just kind of formatting some stuff, addressing some grammatical and spelling errors and that's it. And CTAC did review it at their September meeting. Unfortunately, we couldn't have a formal recommendation from them to you guys because they didn't have a quorum at their meeting.
Did they have any concerns at the discussion?
They didn't state it, no. So that the members that
All right, do we have questions, discussion, motion?
So they're gonna update it and bring it back to us, is that the plan?
No, we're gonna make a resolution adopting it, right?
We'd rather get it approved tonight if we could, and we'll just make them
Assuming it
honor.
will be corrected.
Yeah, we'll make them.
All right,
If there's anything substantive, I assume we'll hear about it.
Yes, but
I just misunderstood what he said.
Okay,
Very good. So I move adoption of the public participation plan.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're back on schedule. So staff reports.
If we could, we'll start with, and one item that will need your approval, and Chris Jensick is here to talk in detail of a grant application that the city of Charlottesville is doing for a shared use path for McIntyre Park along Rugby Avenue. I know Chris has been very successful with some previous projects, and if approved, I'm sure this one will be too. But Chris, if there's anything you might want to provide, there's a drawing in your packet of engineering drawings.
I'll just very quickly, Chris Kensick, City of Charlottesville Parks Department. We've been working with VDOT quite a bit on the new interchange, the bridge over the railroad tracks, extending the 250 trail over to hydraulic and the 250 intersection. Probably going to get some help with this proposal from VDOT to start working on the trail up to Free Bridge, and we're talking to property owners now here. This project gets you under the 250 bypass at Rugby Avenue. We are putting a new parking lot, bus stop, drop-off area here, the new skate park, and access to the botanical garden. So this brings all this north side stuff under the bypass.
That's really great.
Into the Rose Hill neighborhood and ties it together.
That's really great.
We have money to build the parking lot, bus stop, and everything. This grant will help us supplement our local money to get the trail built as well. And we're effectively taking that really wide lane that goes under that looks like a 4-lane road and making it a nice bike trail
And a 2-lane
divider and a single lane, because this is really a single northbound lane, just is very long.
Well, the other lane goes into the park. So am I thinking
The whole
of the
thing
wrong
goes
thing?
into the park.
Oh, okay, I must be in the wrong place, never mind. I was thinking of where you get on westbound bypass.
You would still be able
One lane
to
goes
get
left
into
and the
park
other
and
goes
turn
straight
left to
Here.
go on bypass.
Yeah, but this is this part here.
But as you come under the bridge, it's effectively one lane, there's no
Right,
stripes. in
there's
there.
no stripes, yeah, okay.
Very cool. So we have a resolution in front of us.
Actually, just
No, we don't.
vote, just a vote.
We have a resolution in our minds to vote to recommend the city of Charlottesville TAP grant application shared use path at McIntyre along Rugby Road. Do we have a motion to recommend that?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
We also present to you some tip adjustments. These aren't required for your vote. They're normally administrative things. It happens quite often with transit projects that come in and we have to make adjustments for. So we have those before you tonight, just as information. If you do have any questions, we can try to answer those for you. But again, it's just administrative changes that usually is a result of just moving funds around, not gaining or losing anything.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Nods?
That's good.
Okay. Seeing nods?
We do have our next meeting, which is November 30th, which again is part of, we normally hold the week after Thanksgiving, because our Wednesday nights quite often fall the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which again would have put those smart scale projects right at the witching hour, if we were to consider those. We do have October 26th though, our joint MPO meeting with the Stanton area Waynesboro MPO. We have invited both VDOT representatives, Mr. Donahue said he could not make it, but I think we'll be sending somebody in his stead, as well as the director for DRPT, specifically because we will be offering a tour of the Crozet Tunnel.
When is that meeting?
It starts at 11.
What day?
The 20th of October?
The 26th.
October 26th.
26th.
Of October.
Oh, there it is, it's already on the calendar.
And it
We
starts
sent
at
out,
11.
hold the date kind of.
Oh, yeah.
things
Joint
to
MPO
everybody.
meetings, I have it starting at 10.
Okay, it's actually at 11.
Okay.
Oh, I do too.
And we'll have lunch there, and after the meeting, for those who would like to go on the tour, more than welcome. A couple of presentations, agenda items will be the Stanton area Augusta, Waynesboro MPO has been working on a transit study that would be connecting Harrisonburg to Stanton to Charlottesville, and receive an update on that, as well as an update on where we're heading with the I-64 corridor grant that we're spearheading here, but we're working with the Stanton MPO as well on that project. So we have some really good joint projects going.
So when you write in the agenda that the consideration of canceling, is there time at this Fishersville meeting for us, if we have items that we need to approve, that we could just come into session as ourselves and do that? And is that public enough to do?
Yes, we could do that. Last year, as a reminder, the Saw MPO held a meeting immediately before the joint meeting.
Right.
So that they met for maybe about 45 minutes, did their business, and then came into the joint meeting and called that into session.
That would be preferable for me. I may be the only one, but I've got other things at 3, so it'd be nice to go longer.
And I'll say it would be lovely, but if there's anything really kind of policy changing, I would hesitate to do it so far away from our public. You know, being able to get public comment and that sort of thing. If it's just kind of administrative updates and things like that, especially, I guess we won't be able to have the capacity to stream it either if it's there. If it's just routine things, I'm a little less concerned about it.
We really got a lot of stuff done tonight.
Yes.
In a really timely manner too. I'm not anticipating, Will, can you think of anything that's coming up that I'm not sure of anything that's going to be required. Like I said, a lot got covered.
So this is for the November 30th, we might not have it.
So we'll tentatively cancel it.
Okay.
Tentatively cancel it. We can
what
always.
I would ask that we do is, I assume we have some sort of email list that we send out to people about agendas and upcoming meetings, that we do that relatively soon.
Okay.
And just really clarify to folks that the November meeting is being replaced by this October meeting, and that the public is welcome in Fishersville, our public as well as the Stanton public.
Sure.
Just so that people don't feel like we're sneaking off and doing the public's business out of the public eye.
That is 11 o'clock at night too.
In a very, very small room. Yeah. No.
It's in a tunnel.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the tunnel. So. But and we're going to have public comment at the end of this meeting, so we may hear something else. But I'm comfortable with it for that, as long as with those caveats. Okay. Any other discussion about that? So do we need a motion to change the meeting, or just?
I was gonna say something. I mean, the only thing that might come up is we might have a tip amendment or something might come up between now and then that we need to probably get reviewed and approved. And if we don't meet in November, then the next meeting would be January.
Is October too soon?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, right now I'm not foreseeing anything coming up, but if something does come up, it could be a long time before. And we're going into the slower time of the year, so it may not be as critical. I just don't want to make sure that we don't have a lapse.
How do people feel about keeping the MPO meeting kind of penciled in on the 30th, to not schedule something else or leave town, and then don't have it unless we call it, just in case there's something that needs to happen? Is that?
I gotta leave town anyway. so.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna be here either.
Oh, so the 30th wouldn't work for you?
And it doesn't work for me either.
Well, then I would say
so.
let's not do that
You're not gonna have
unless we
anybody
need
from
to, and then we can try to.
So.
And we usually, I mean, we would have that enough, we could just call a special meeting.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But not on the 30th, so
exactly.
Right. So given the choice between the 30th, canceling the 30th and not, I think we've already canceled the 30th. We don't want to do it on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so for the moment, it's October. If we need to call a special meeting, we'll do it. So, okay, and do we need a motion to that effect, or is that to the nods around the table?
That would be good, just.
Okay, do we have a motion to that effect?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. I'll get off my calendar and go back to my agenda. We have transit updates?
As far
Do you have
as
one?
You're as close as we get.
Yeah, we don't have any significant updates other than universities going through a unified branding initiative. So that will likely change the appearance of our transit fleet, our bus stops, things like that. So
Are they changing the name from UTS to something else?
I doubt it. It more of just the image, kind of bringing it more up to date and whatnot, and to match more of the university's branding initiatives. But it's very early phases, but that's our only major update right now.
Very good. I don't see that we have either Kat or John here. Do we have any written things from them? Okay, well, apparently nothing bad is happening. Hopefully all good things are happening. We have, it is 5:25, so we have our extra item.
Yeah, and I will pass this out, something that Ann and I are proposing. And this suggestion is really just about a way to perhaps communicate more specifically between Charlottesville and Albemarle. And Ann, feel free to jump in as you want to with this. As we all realize that as of October 1, 10 of the 13 transit routes that CAT is running are going into Albemarle County. And so the suggestion here is really only to broaden and expand on the report that we currently get from CAT, an update on what's happening with CAT. Mm-hmm. This is simply a suggestion that we would like a little bit more formal process for that update.
For the MPO update.
For the MPO at this meeting.
Okay.
And also that the same report be given to the technical committee. Okay. That we get it as part of our packet, and that so that we can have a chance to look at it. And Ann and I have, and staff have given some suggestions of what we would be looking at for that report in the way of a little bit more information. For example, any capital improvement projects that CAT would be looking at that might include major stop and transfer improvements, operational information about ridership. These would just, all of these bullets are just suggestions on what that report, and certainly this is not inclusive or what we would be looking for.
Would appreciate information rather than require.
Exactly. May include, that's right. I think this would help certainly Ann and myself, and as well as our staff, in understanding a little bit what might be coming up in the changes with CAT, and allow us to react a little bit better, certainly not only from budgetary, but also changes that we could anticipate. And I would also suggest that we might look at including this information, or think of this as maybe a prototype, and ask John to do the same thing.
And I was thinking UTS as well.
Well, UTS would be great too. I just think that this would help all of us with our communication and understanding of where transit and some of the organizations are going. And so you can take a few minutes if you want to read this.
I guess I really like this, and I had no idea what it was, and so I haven't quite digested it. I think having a more formal report is, and I can see, not just for you, but for all of us, it's helpful. Mm-hmm. I would like to consider, making it a general transit report request rather than just CAT. Because I think that John and UTS also can affect regional transit or transportation, and it matters for all of us. However, because we don't have representatives of either John or CAT in the room, I'm a little reluctant to make it official today, and so I'd be inclined to put it on the agenda, and I would vote for it, but unless I hear some particular reason from them that it's just impossible, or that, so it seems like it could be more binding if we have their participation in the discussion.
I think it's binding if you tell them they have to do it.
That's
I
right.
mean,
I
we
think
asked,
this is.
here's an example of why it's
But because we didn't have it ahead of time, we haven't.
Oh, I understand that.
And
I'm
John especially is our staff, and so we
right.
have to watch
But
out.
we have asked, we being the county, have asked for quarterly reports. And at the meeting last week, I asked when that was, since we asked more than a year ago, and he said, well, I'm waiting to be, invited. I said, well, we did invite you 15 months ago, and we'd like to have you come quarterly and talk to us about this, because it's a big surprise when all of a sudden the bill comes.
Sure.
And there are also, in addition to CAT's budget, there are changes that CAT makes which then affect John's budget from the county in a very significant way. And when we don't find out about those in time, that's heartburn as well. So I think that he is your staff person, but he needs a little more direction.
I do have a point of
clarification
here, please.
But I'd also just point out, just to kind of follow up on my thing, that the MPO is not in charge of funding, and so that's probably something that maybe should come before council, or before, that this piece doesn't solve that this is.
This is information sharing.
And this is important.
What all this tries to get at is for the representatives from the city and the county to agree that we'll have a more formal process for information sharing, so that certainly all of us, but especially Albemarle County, has more of a heads up on what's happening and what's coming.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think Ann and I thought that this rose to the level of, it's information sharing.
Well, normally they're in the room, and that's why.
But
I something more
Madam
detailed.
Chair, may I please say something? Because I do think that this is an important point of protocol. That a counselor cannot tell a department head what to do. The city manager does.
Oh, yes.
So that's the chain of command is really something that we need to be cognizant of. And I don't think, I'm not sure this MPO can tell individual staff people who are under the supervision of other people in the chain of command, be it your executive director or be it our city manager,
university,
or the university. We cannot
and this doesn't
require them to make a report. I'm wondering, why isn't this something that we consider at the summit as part of the transportation MOU? Because that is directly related to directing staff to provide us with information, other kinds of policy initiatives. I just don't think this is the right venue for this.
Well, this was the format for the reporting, I guess.
This is right. We thought we were looking at this as the logical place to go, because we were getting updates.
But we're not
through the MPO
we're not
at this
acting
meeting.
as our bodies, giving a direction to our immediate CEOs.
And I'm actually in a third position, because I really would like this kind of reporting to the MPO, but I don't want to make that. I want to include them in the discussion.
Sure, okay.
But I just don't think the MPO has that authority to tell department heads of any locality what to do.
Well, I think we do if they're making reports to us, and it's in our.
Reporting can be time consuming, and I like this information as well. I want this information. I'm just saying that I think it'd be more effective if this came through the MOUs that we've established between Albemarle County and Charlottesville City as a directive to our CEOs, because they are the ones who supervise John Jones.
Although the MPO is responsible for kind of looking at regional transportation issues, and I think that you've pointed out, if 10 of 13 routes cross the border, that this is a regional transportation issue, and so we should have a way to have some sort of understanding of what's happening, and
I agree.
The updates that we get sometimes do rise to that level, but apparently, I think probably a majority of people on this board feel that they would like more.
Well, then I would say that this should be a request to the city manager of Charlottesville that his staff member provide this report. It's not that we can directly charge Mr. Jones to do that, John Jones. I mean, that's my understanding.
If maybe I could, no, we definitely cannot direct anybody. But what I think that we could do, and I guess I'd start with, I would add rideshare to this.
All the reports. So we have,
well,
John.
So that it's uniform.
Right.
I do think since there has been an ongoing practice of each of the transit providers providing a report, that we ask them to, in future reports, here's the format we would like it. If they choose not to, us as a body, in my understanding, individually, have no way to change that. The copy of that could be sent to the city manager, the chief executive officer, the executive director of the PDC, and UTS, to just so they're aware that this request has been made. The other thing, which I think I've had individual discussions with everyone, to formalize it for a longer term. We're completing the transit organizational study, which will have recommendations in it, whether it be through joint MOUs or formal agreements. Then the information to be shared could then be formalized as a result of that study. But until such time, I think it would be well within our prerogative to ask all of our transit providers that this is the format we would like future reports.
And I think this just assures a consistent information sharing that gets at what and gives us a heads up on.
But it doesn't require it doesn't require them to do it. That's what I'm saying, and what I've been trying to convey, and it's being reinforced by Chip, is that we do need a structure to require it to be done.
No, we can't require it.
No, but a structure as an MOU moving forward long term.
On another
but this
venue.
we can make this request, but it's not like we can. It's just it's like a favor. But it's not something we can require of any department head to do, because that's not.
So you're suggesting that we look at this for the MPO, but also do the other.
And I think the other will naturally happen as we have those discussions around those memorandums of understanding. This is something that gets us moving forward a little bit more.
Within the MPO.
Within the MPO, right.
And as I was talking about moving it to the next meeting, I'm realizing we just decided not to have the next meeting.
And that's why Dan and I brought it forward. To be honest with you, we really didn't want to wait until, because once we had this discussion, we were hopeful that it would
be January before we actually discuss it.
One option we could have, so that the transit providers, certainly have a chance to look at this, is that we would be glad to pull them together. We meet with them all the time anyway, and just say, we would really like to have a more formal reporting system to the MPO policy board. Here's a good starting point. What more can
it's
do?
the same for all.
Why can't some of these things be done? What information are we forgetting? And come up with a format, a form.
It sounds very good to me. That's great.
Yeah.
So rather than having a motion tonight, what we will do is instruct staff to come up with something that incorporates this basic
reporting format.
And then, yes, my phone must be ringing.
And I was certainly intending this to be sort of a prototype for Jaunt. And certainly UTS is a great idea to
all transit
that.
reports.
Yeah, and I hadn't even thought about rideshare, but that's a great one too.
Yeah, there's certainly a different app.
Yeah.
And they don't always have these things, but when they do, that we should.
But there are certain numbers
in
you may. In rideshare's case, you may see the same numbers every meeting, but at least you'll have the report.
We don't have any zeros.
Every meeting.
And the public has it, because then it's on the website.
Yeah, this is just an effort to improve, continuous improvement on how we're sharing information.
I'm comfortable with it in that format.
That's all it was.
Well, again, I just want to make sure that we are understanding the chain of command and how we're getting the information, and that it does sound like it's going to be done in a constructive way.
So we're good?
Very good, thank you.
And we did have time.
Great.
We're still.
No, we're fine. The time is great.
Good.
And this is certainly the place to bring that up, so.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anything else on the board? Great. Anything else from the public? Okay, then, yes, anything else from the staff?
Introduction.
Yes. Kevin, jump up and introduce your.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Sorry, I kept bypassed that earlier, didn't I?
This is Mr. Andrew Gray. He is our new director of planning at Albemarle County.
Welcome.
Thanks very much. Pleasure to be here and look forward to seeing what I'm doing all these wonderful things.
Why don't you slide over here so the people at home can see you?
Oh.
And they'll know you when they see you on the street. I saw you walking down the mall, so I have already seen you out in the wild.
In the wild, yes, fair enough. Yes, I have worked a lot with other MPOs and RPCs and equivalent entities in different places, and value very much their work, and have worked hand in glove with them, and I look forward to hopefully being able to do the same and help these great visions for the area come to fruition.
Can you tell them a little bit about where you have worked? They might be interested in your.
I have worked in New England, in the Dartmouth College area, in a very similar role to this one, and I worked hand in glove with the RPC there. Actually, one's on both sides of the river. The laws of physics are apparently different on each side of the Connecticut River.
It's the same here.
Yeah, that's right. Between Vermont and New Hampshire, absolutely.
I have worked as executive director of the Central Indiana Regional Transportation Authority, and I've worn other hats. I've been a consultant as well for many of the same things. I have specialized in place-based transportation in many of my roles, and it's definitely the kind of thing we're trying to pursue. So I look forward to participating.
Well, as we prepare for winter, we hope you will see the benefit of Virginia and stay for a while.
I'm already
Great.
Yeah. The almanac says we're going to get lots of snow this year.
That's true. We won't feel like a
right
southern winter. Anything else? All right, we're adjourned.
Great. Thank you.
Right.